What's happening, Jack? This is Jason with On the Play Games. I got Jack Stalcup with me. Level 1 judge still, right? You still hold that?
Yes, sir.
That accreditation?
Every week. Every week.
When's the last time you actually used I guess you judged an event, like actually?
I judge an event every week at Final Round and Zenergy, where this event was held. I judge Mondays and at Zenergy and Fridays at Final Round, and both Modern. I've been doing that for like three years now, I want to say.
Okay, so you keep it kind of casual to like the weekly events then mostly.
Yeah, I try to. Whenever there's a bigger event, I generally would prefer to play over that, and that's definitely something that I try to maintain, is being a player first.
That's where the fun is, at least, right?
Absolutely. Love slinging cards, like casting spells.
Absolutely. And talk about slinging cards, we have got a opportunity to sling some cards here pretty soon. About, 9 days from now, we have got May 17th, noon, the $35 entry fee for a Modern RCQ. This one's going to have those top 8 pins everybody loves and a $500 guaranteed cash prize pool over there at the Goose Creek Zenergy Gamers. And this is the first one in a series of just rapid fire Modern RCQs that are going to happen. There's like a string of them I was seeing when I was checking out events coming up. But this is the first one coming up that I saw in the local area for the Tri-County, Charleston, South Carolina area. So everybody keep your eyes out for that. It's going to be really cool to check that out and see what we can get going on with the local players. We are going to also take a look at the bracket from the RCQ that we are talking about here. Real quick, let me pull that up. We got our bracket here. We've talked about the quarterfinal matchup that was you and Weston and how that went. That went to 3 games. Weston pulling out of that one kind of by the hair of his chinny chin chin, so to speak.
Absolutely. Ugin carried all the way to the end. So.
Yep. Then we checked out with Weston joining us last cast. We did a review of the match between him and Philip. That was kind of a grudge match of just landy until someone turned the corner, and with the Eldrazi versus Eldrazi. And in this one, I'm going to go with Zachary. I put the H on the end of Zach. I know a lot of Zachs go with the K. I tried to reach out to him to see which way he liked to do the truncated version of his name. Could never really get a contact with him, but I was hoping he would join us because there are 3 cards he sideboarded in. I could not figure out what the 3 cards were he sideboarded in or out because he was kind of holding his hand, and it's pretty tight for the camera, and you might be able to get some insights on it. We'll talk about his sideboard here a little bit. I'm just going to run down some of the cards he had, and you may have some insights on this. He had 1 Nature's Claim. I'm thinking this is probably a no-brainer here. 2 Force of Vigors. 2, is it Suraz Sanctuaries?
Sanctuary.
It looks like S.
I don't think I've heard of this one.
Looks like S-A.
Oh, is that the 2 and a green enchantment that says if a creature gets targeted by a spell, it gets +3/+3?
That may be it. I could not find it in the database. I bet it's the 3 Veil of Sunders. That makes sense.
If Eldrazi generally won't have many blue cards, Weston is on a blue deck,
And he did play
the only spell that would have text against Veil of Summer would be Consign to Memory, and there isn't anything that he would want to bring in there for sure.
One other card that Weston did play out of his sideboard that he brings in is Mystical Dispute. And
oh, I see. From Weston's side. I see.
Yeah, he brings in.
What would he bring in? Okay.
Right.
I apologize.
And then, but I'm talking about on Zachary's sideboard, there's 3 cards he brings in, and he has 3 Veil of Summer. Which, doesn't that allow him to...
it's not the Veil of Summer.
Not the Veil of Summer?
Okay. I don't believe it's the Veil of Summer.
Then it might...
I'd be very, very, very surprised if we saw that.
Then it might be the Consign to Memory, maybe? Yeah, that makes sense for that.
Consign to Memory, absolutely. Consign to Memory will be a super triple premium against Eldrazi. It is easily the best sideboard card in Modern against Eldrazi.
Okay, so 100% those 2 come in. And then there's Collector Oath, which would shut off artifacts, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, and that would shut off his talismans, but that would be it. So
and then Tameo,
I would be hard-pressed there.
Tameo Safekeeping? I'm not sure about that card.
Tameo Safekeeping, potentially. I believe it also gives Hexproof, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'm going to look that up really quick. But as long as it gives Hexproof, it'll dodge Kozilek's command, which will be the number 1 problem in addition to Kozilek's return. So let's see here. Tameo's Safekeeping. Yeah, so it actually dodges both. It gives the creature Hexproof and Indestructible. So it does stop K-Command and Kozilek's return, which will be 2 of the biggest cards that he's afraid of.
Then there's your 3 cards in. The 3 cards out, I have no idea. I mean, you basically probably 3 pump spells.
It definitely it can't be a threat. Infect traditionally is always going to be threat light, and there's really nothing you can do to fix that. So I definitely would imagine it's going to be some flex card or some probably like the worst pump spell. I don't know if he's on Distortion Wake. If he is on Distortion Wake, I would imagine Distortion Wake could come out. But hopefully we'll just get a glance at it. We'll see.
Would it be Distortion Strike by any chance?
Distortion Strike, yeah. Blue +1/+0 sorcery with rebound. Creature cannot be blocked.
And that's the one.
Eldrazi traditionally doesn't make a lot of creatures. By the time they do, the game's normally over. That's not to say that it's not the worst card I've ever seen. So.
Yeah, solid card. We will see some of that action in Game 1 from that card. But yeah, he does run 3 of those. So that would be the 3 out, the 3 in. Makes total sense.
It could be. I would be surprised to see all 3 go. I would imagine it'd be a blend, unless there's something else that like stands out as significantly bad. But it can't be a threat. It just can't be something that says Infect on it.
Definitely. No. If anything, you'd want to try to get some more into the day.
If you could, I know Vivian Recursor or something like that, Phyrexian Crusader, these are all like really good alternatives in the sideboard to bring in. I hear none of them are great, so what you see is what you get.
Yeah, and there are some plays in Game 1. I'm going to point them out to you and kind of get your feel on what you think Weston was thinking when he makes them here as we kind of go through some of this gameplay and take a look at it.
I will say I'm very excited to see Infect on the screen. I think it was a very good deck choice, especially considering our locals. I believe that Infect is a deck that rewards players that are experienced at playing against players that are inexperienced, not understanding that you're almost always just a couple cards away from dying. And I think he got heavily rewarded throughout the RCQ. I have seen Infect win a couple other RCQs, not by the same player, but that is a sign that Infect is still alive, which is something I think we all enjoy seeing.
Oh, this is an absolute pace, and it's one of those like glass cannon decks where like the creatures are so fragile, but if they make contact with you, it's just lights out. And there's so many spots in this little matchup here that we see where that holds true right through to the end. We got the gameplay rolling right now. and we should see cards popping up as they get played. We got the volume turned down right so that we can talk and not get blasted out like I accidentally had happen in the first video that you and I did together. And I do apologize to anyone who was unfortunate enough to see that first video. We had 218 viewers for that first video, which for a channel that only has 72 viewers, I was pretty happy to see that. And I do want to say thanks to everyone who popped in and checked that out, because that's pretty cool. That does mean that something along the lines of about, I don't know what it converts out to, but about maybe 1 in 4 people are subscribed that are viewing. So if you get a chance to hit that subscribe button while you're viewing, please take a chance to do that. Just punch it right in the face. And they're taking a look at their mulligans right here. And
one thing I want to say is that Zachary is a longtime grinder. And Weston, like we said before, is still like relatively new. He's gotten a lot more competitive in the last couple of years, and it's been great to see him grow. And I really like to see the handshake before the game, Zachary really slowing down and making sure that everything is the way it needs to be. And I feel like you can kind of feel his years of experience, and it's genuinely a joy to watch.
And not only that, but just years with Infect, too. I mean, he has been on this deck for a long time. I was talking to Joe Ambrosio about it, and he's just like, oh, Zachary on Infect? Yeah, that sounds like Zachary. Yeah. They start off with a classic, just put out Infect creature, and Weston goes right into a little ramp action, getting his colors right.
Yeah, and so this is already very scary for Weston, because if Zachary has Scale Up plus Might of Old Corrosa, he's already dead.
Yep.
So there could be a turn 2 kill. And right now we see Distortion Wake. This is one of Zachary's weakest pump spells. With this, what I would hope is that Zachary has protection in case of a Kozilek's command. And even though Weston has 0 access to colorless mana right now, he's only 1 Eldrazi Temple, 1 Ugin's Labyrinth away from casting K-Command on 2. And that's going to be a big issue for Zachary if he tries to go for it. So, and we do know Weston has Null Drifter, Ugin's Lab rolled up, but I haven't seen K-Commands. So right now the shields are completely down for Weston. All he can really do is make a creature to block off of Malevolent Rumble, and that doesn't matter because Zachary has Distortion Strike coming off Rebound right now. So I think he's trying to map out some way to like interact, and the fact is he just can't. So yeah, he's just going to go for Rumble. He's going to try and go for a setup turn. And now I think...
Now watch this. He puts a land down next. Now, if I'm not mistaken,
it's the feel bad. It's the feel bad.
If he had put that land down first, he would have been able to pay for that. Correct?
Yeah, you absolutely feel terrible doing it like that. The problem is that you don't know what you're going to get off Rumble, and if you find something else that's worse to cast, you would rather put that under Ugin's Lab. Okay. And so he definitely had incentivization to do that, or incentive, but ultimately he just got blown out and got caught with his pants down. But to be honest, Zachary could easily, like I said before, he could have had the kill last turn, and it's just getting worse and worse. So now Weston's already at 2 Infect. No, how much Infect is he at? He's at
2. He's
at 2 Infect, yeah. And so he's coming in for 2 again at least, putting up to 4. So if we can pump for 6, it is lethal. I see a Noble Hierarch coming down. I think I saw a Vines of Vastwood as well. And it looks like a Glistener Elf. So it's Vines of Vastwood, Glistener Elf. And I'd imagine we're going to get him for 3, put you to 5 poison. And then next turn, we'll have access to 4 mana. Oh, he just plays Glistener Elf. Okay, that actually kind of scares me. But I guess his logic would be, if my opponent has K-Command and he has something to kill it, the Vines doesn't. I don't care if you kill my guy, because I can just activate Ink Moth Nexus and then attack and pump it, and it'll be lethal. Here we see Myco Spawn coming down. There is a cute interaction with K-Commands and an Eldrazi Temple or Ugin's Lab, and I don't know if it'll come up, but if Zachary ever activates an Ink Moth Nexus and tries to attack thinking that the shields are down, Weston can actually K-Command for 0, exiling the Ink Moth Nexus and making him draw a card. But it's a very corner case scenario.
It almost
an untap. And it should just be lethal here, if I'm not mistaken. We're already at 5.
Yeah, he's...
And we draw scale up, so just scale up, attack with both guys.
Well, he's got a blocker.
You block my 6.
And then bang.
Yep, but then we just pump, we finish it off. For 5. And that'll be lethal. 5 plus 5 is 10. Goodbye.
So I felt like in that situation where he, he had his turn 2 play, he decided not to lay the land down first to just make sure he had the 2 resources up to be able to pay for the Spell Pierce. That Zachary was kind of selling that either Spell Pierce or Spell Snare.
Yeah, and this is a closed deckless tournament, right? So
yeah.
Weston doesn't necessarily know that Spell Pierce is in the deck. He should believe it is, because it's going to be one of the only cards that kills him most of the time. And the benefit of casting Rumble first is almost essentially like if you find Devourer, Emrakul, or Worldbreaker, you would prefer to put that under the Labyrinth.
Okay.
Versus guaranteeing the Spell Pierce that you can resolve Malevolent Rumble through Spell Pierce. And I think that gamble isn't one I would have taken. I probably just would have played the land. But at the same time, if you're just not super considering Spell Pierce, it's very easy just to say, I need to cast my cantrips before I play my lands. That's very traditional, especially if you just have nothing else to do. So it's definitely a mistake that I would have made as well, but it's not. It's not one that's egregious.
Very easily could have. I know I would have made that mistake. There's no doubt about it. With the way I play Magic, I would have made far worse mistakes than those. But yeah, I feel like when you're sitting there looking at anybody that's got 1 blue up, you kind of feel
that's the other part of it, right? Infect needs to protect its creatures, so to have 1 green up, or not 1 green, 1 blue-green, it does represent Spell Pierce, but more often than not, it represents more protection spells. As in giving your creature hexproof, or the long monologue of Vines hex that's very specific. I think more often than not, your opponent would have one of those cards.
Right.
With that being said, it's pretty easy just to play around Spell Pierce, and hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm backseat driving this thing all day.
Absolutely.
But that one was a tight one. You don't get a lot of time or turns against Infect. That and I think he's going on.
They're doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
and Zachary does not do it wrong. He did not get to the finals by mistake. He got there by great plays and knowing how to pilot. Very calculated player.
Very good. And the deck really does capitalize on some of the most popular decks. I will say against Energy, Distortion Strike carries that deck. They have blockers for days, and Blighted Agent and Distortion Strike are one of their only ways to attack through all the cats they're creating, etc. But you have an amazing Eldrazi matchup, and any clunky deck at all, you're going to crush. And if you play against any mid-range deck, if that player is inexperienced against Infect, you have a severe edge. So I think Zachary got good matchups, and I think Zachary played well. And that's and got lucky. And I think that's what you need to do to win a Magic the Gathering tournament.
I think this event had 17 players to it, so it wasn't, it was 5 rounds if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was 5 rounds, and I believe Zachary was one of the 3-0s, which meant he got to draw at one point. I know he played his round 4 because he was playing against Amulet, and he knew that was a really good matchup, so he wanted to play that one out. And then I couldn't tell you if he drew his round 5 or not. So, but here we see Weston keeping his 6 with Devourer. Hopefully he can fix up his mana here. He has Mystical Dispute as his
I think he's on
summon
5.
interaction. You think he's on 5 right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Okay, you are correct. He's on 5.
Yeah, rough start.
Never feels good.
Rough start. Yeah, you got to be scared when you're, especially when your opponent is on Infect and kept his first hand, just like full grip kept.
Yeah, and so Weston's actually faced with a pretty interesting decision if he wants to keep K Return or Malevolent Rumble. I think I would keep the K Return just because I need to interact with my opponent's creatures, and if I don't, I lose the game. And none of the other cards do that. Rumble doesn't even find removal. Okay, but we do see the Rumble being chosen. I'm very curious as to what Weston is looking for off of that Rumble to make it worth it over the Kozilek's Return.
Yeah, I do feel you on that one, because it would seem like a 2-point board sweeper like that against Infect. I mean, obviously they got their pump spells to kind of get out of dodge, but if they don't, or they tap out in front of you or make any kind of play mistake to allow you to get that off and get full value for it, you pretty much are going to 2 to 3 for 1 them.
Yeah, and so now Weston is kind of in a bit of a cage right now, and he's praying that Zach casts Blighted Agent. We're looking for specifically Blighted Agent. Any other spell we are unhappy to see.
Well, check
and right
this
now
out.
We see Zachary just developing, casting Glistener Elf and another Dork. And I see now why Weston kept the hand. He had Dismember. And that's why he also wanted to bin the K Return, because he wanted more gas.
And no land drop.
If he had kept K Return, this would have been a 3 for 1, which would have been phenomenal.
But no red Reese. I guess he had a fetch land.
He had a Misty Rainforest, and he could have just fetched Stomping Ground.
Yep.
Or Commercial District.
And if you notice, there was a turn 2 land drop miss by Zachary.
And it just doesn't matter with all the dorks.
Yeah, but I mean, he would have been able to sweep that board. And, you know.
Yeah, I think I definitely really prefer keeping K Return there. And we see second Blighted Agent.
Yeah, that was tough right there.
And so all that Weston's really got that I see is Devour, but I didn't get a good look at the second card. But we're 2 land drops away from casting that, unless we find Tempo off the top. But here, we're coming in for 7 this turn.
Yeah, 7 already. That's... So you got 3 just off of the Exalted Triggers, plus the 4. And
I think he's just going for it. He's thinking about it. He's considering it. And we do have Spell Pierce backup. Now, the thing is K-Command... Yeah, K-Command doesn't stop this. K-Return doesn't stop this. There's not a card. Dismember will stop this. That'll be the only card that stops Zachary from winning the game. So here we see Infect beating Eldrazi. We love to see it. We love to see colorless, big, dumb creatures get crushed by some 2016 modern Magic the
Gathering. There was so many just fast... I mean, it didn't even give you time enough to even think about the plays that were going on there. In the decisions that Weston had to make and how fast he had to make them were, just
You only get a couple.
You only get a couple.
You only get a couple.
You only get
Make
a couple
count.
seconds to make the decisions there. So, again, congratulations to him just for even getting there and making it to the final table. Zachary, congratulations to you as well. Again, our final bracket ended up with Zachary being the winner and taking that invitation. I believe it was it Houston and Denver? It was a...
Oh, yeah, you can pick. So you get one invitation and you go to whichever one you prefer.
Which allows you to go ahead and play in another RCQ later on, if I'm not mistaken, which is great. I'm glad they made that change because what a bummer to not be able to, play in another RCQ later on in the season, or just like the next weekend or whatever.
Yeah, it's very funny because when that was happening, like you said, you can only win one RCQ, and then you were done for the season. And so if you won in the first, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of the season starting, you just kind of, you could show up, and all your buddies would be like, are you playing? You're like, nah, I already got it. And there were definitely a lot of players that really liked doing that.
And then you got, a hyped-up deck that you really feel great about, and then you don't get to play it for a while. Or at least not at a competitive level. You're just playing on your weeklies or whatever.
Absolutely.
But so I was looking at the meta, right? And so Infect representing less than 1% of the meta on MTG top 8. How do you feel about its position against the meta at large? I mean, is it a deck that you would take to the next RCQ that you'd go to? Is it a well positioned with the Boros list out there? It seems like it would just burn out the creatures. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of decks can be kind of categorized in general zones of unfair and fair. Generally, fair decks will either have more or a medium amount of removal. And Boros Energy at instant speed really only has generally 6 to 9 cards that will interact with an Infector at instant speed. If you want to include Goblin Bombardment, that'll knock it up to 9. But a lot of people are playing Thraben Charm 2 times nowadays. And you have 4 Galvanic Discharge. So that'll be your premium removal spell. And what I want to focus on by bringing this up is you don't get many shots, right? They have 12 infecting creatures, and they have more abilities to protect them, especially against damage-based spells. And if that's true, they can wedge their protection in such a way where if you make one mistake, you get heavily punished. So I think that the more inexperienced the other player is, the more beneficial that these matchups get. And I think Is It Prowess is also similar to that. There is one card that really makes the matchup hell, and it's going to be Lava Dart. So Lava Dart deals 1 damage for a red at instant speed, and you can also flash it back by sacrificing a mountain. And it's something that Infects will always have a very, very hard time dealing with. The only beneficial part is that it's damage-based, so at least they can pump their creature. They don't have to use a Vines or something, or a Spell Pierce or something to prevent the losing the creature, but that doesn't mean it feels good. So it is pretty rough, and the last thing I will say about that is if you're on Infect and they Lava Dart your creature, in response you can pump it and the flashback won't matter. So there are situations where you can make it work, but it's very specific and it can be Dimir Murktide is very similar with for Fatal Push. But then that'll be it in terms of fair decks. Orzhov Blink has fallen off pretty hard. They are on 4 Fatal Push and 4 Solitude. I think that'll be a very, very tough matchup for Infect.
Those are clean
But as far as Eldrazi goes, Storm, Titan, Belcher, you're going to crush them. You're going to do very, very, very well. I think things can get definitely sticky against Domain Zoo, Affinity, Yogg, like these weirder decks that can kind of play both games. But as far as like generic decks that just kind of like do it all, very Jund-esque, I think if the opponent is less experienced, it is a phenomenal choice. I think if they're more experienced, I think the matchup starts to become unwinnable. You only have so many threats. If they can line up their removal with your threat, you will always lose the game. It's just math, you know? So that's what I believe.
So my understanding is when you're going to take your shot at that removal of their infect creature, you always want to try to do that on your turn. You don't ever really
if
want
they
to do
are
it on their
completely
side.
tapped out, you 100% want to get rid of that creature. You want to guarantee that that creature is going to die. So absolutely.
And another side of that, from my understanding, and again, this is coming from a guy who just is, you know, you name it, I can make a bad play doing it. Especially damage based, when you go to remove that creature, you want to do it in a way to where if they're using their pump spell to save the creature, you're not doing it in a way to where then they get to attack with it and then hit you with all that infect damage. So, you know, trying to make sure you're doing it on your turn, sorcery speed on, you know, in your main phases or what have you. It's been my understanding from talking to people like Joe and so forth, that, you know, you don't want to do it right before they're getting ready to attack you or in the middle of combat, you know, when they're coming at you. Yeah, that was the final match of the RCQ that was held back on the 12th of April, I believe it was. And
yeah, it was a while ago now.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It took me a little while to get things in gear. Plus, I got out of town there for a minute. So I do apologize to everyone about the delay in getting the videos rolled out. But it also does take a little while to kind of get all the images pulled together and tie everything together in a way that...
It's a lot of work.
Man, it you know, it does take a little while, but, you know, it's fun, too, at the same time. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and, you know, sad face anything. It's always a good time doing this stuff. And I learn something every time I get to watch really good matches played, you know. And, again, just to kind of rewind it back to some good matches we're going to get a chance to see. Again, back on May 17th, we're going to see some more great Magic being played in the modern format. On May 17th at Zenergy Gamers, and hopefully we'll be seeing some of those pins being passed out. I know I'm going to take a shot at it. I'm going to be there tomorrow also at Final Round. That's going to be really fun to check out. I haven't been to Final Round for Friday Night Modern in a while, so I look really forward to doing that. And just, I haven't seen Jesse and those guys in quite some time and actually played cards with them. You know. And who is it that's doing the videos over there? I've been seeing the videos pop up.
Jacob McGuire.
Jacob McGuire's doing it? Okay.
Man. Yeah, his YouTube is let me look it up before I shot call it real quick. But Jacob McGuire films at Final Round every Friday.
Yeah, it's like Widow Spider, or it's something Spider.
I believe it's Wolf Spider.
Wolf Spider, that's it. And the O is a 0 or something like that. But yeah, great intro to it. Looks really sharp, good audio. If you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, I'm definitely going to be putting a link in it in the description. He has already a pretty good subscriber base there already, but does a great job of showing some good modern being played over there at Final Rounds. And as we said before, you know, Final Rounds been holding down Friday Night Magic for, man, that shop has been open. When I was talking to Thomas, it is 10 years this year. Exactly. And we were talking about it last time we were together, that they've been holding down Modern on Friday nights for a decade, and it literally is a decade this year. So really cool with what they've been doing and keeping the Modern format alive in Charleston, and really cool with what Zenergy's doing with the RCQs and so forth as well. And right after that, the 17th, which is 9 days away. It's just back to back to back to back across multiple shops in the Low Country.
I'm really looking forward to the grind.
Really, oh man, it's going to be cool. Jack, as always, I really appreciate you jumping in and giving us your insights. Every bit of it is solid gold, man. And you have a great rest of your night, and I appreciate everything.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, always. Have a great night. Bye now.